All right, and welcome back to Saturday Night Chit Chat. And, the show's been going on now almost, 14, 15 months now, which is mind-boggling when I think about that it's been going on that long. But one of my very early guests on the show who was, nice enough to join us on one of our very first shows is this next gentleman. I'm sure many people that watch the show know Michael. I have probably bumped into Michael personally at a festival, Jam Cruise, many other places. So he's got a new book we're going to talk about out here, Instrument Head Revealed, which we're going to get real heavily into, go on a little bit of his history. But everybody here, welcome to the show. The amazing photographer and someone I'm happy to call my friend, Mr. Michael Weintrob. How you doing, Mike?
I'm good, buddy. Hey, thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. So you are in Nashville, which is where you live now, right?
Yep, I've been here for about 7 years. I moved here from New York in 2014.
Has it been that long? Wow.
7 years, man.
So you got your flag is like planted, right?
I'm rooted and deep in the Nashville music scene now.
It is amazing how many people, I had Billy Sheehan on a few weeks ago. He lives down there. Of course, Victor lives down there, which I know you just did an event with him, which we'll talk about here in a minute. And of course, Jennifer Hartswick. And it's just amazing the amount of people that are down there. Jeff Berlin, who I just saw that on the show last week, amazing bassist Jeff Berlin, who's a New York guy as well, now lives down in Nashville too and loves it down there. Yeah. So it's just, it's the place to be. I love it because it's only about 4-hour drive from Cincinnati, so I can get to there real quick. So
come on down and visit.
Yeah. So, as well as the book, and we'll get into the books, both books in a second. The one thing that you've been doing, and you were it seemed like you were just kind of starting to get your feet wet with that. It was probably a good 8-9 months ago when you were on the show, almost a year ago, was you also have Instrument Head Live, which is basically the people that are predominantly in your book or somebody associated with your book, right, come perform at your art gallery. Is that the gist of it?
That's right. Yep. We basically, when COVID hit, a friend of mine named Greg Burns, who's an audio engineer, used to be Green Sky Bluegrass's head engineer for 10 years, kind of brought their tour rig that he owns into the space, and we turned it into a sound stage. And we went on to hook up with a guy named Max Schindler, who's been a director for Good Morning America and the Today Show, directing live television in New York for 20 years, who loves music, and he started directing all these shows for us. So, my studio kind of turned into the shrimp boat in Forrest Gump.
Basically. That's awesome.
Everything was closed, and we put on a lot of great shows over the last year and a half in here, which I'm very thankful for.
Now, are they is it sporadic, or do you have kind of a set, day or time for it, or does it just kind of depend on, the schedule of all musicians? I mean, how do you schedule these? Sporadic? Okay.
Well, no one had a place to play, so we were working out deals with some of the managers to do CD release parties and different things like that. In March, Paste Magazine came in here and did their Paste on the Road sessions, where they filmed 28 bands in 7 days.
Wow.
People like Lady A, Brendan Benson, Langhorne Slim, Jason Isbell, you name it. Like a lot of stars came in here. And so got me thinking, wow, what if we did this with people in our community to help support this crowdfunding campaign for my new book as a vehicle. So we filmed 20 shows in about 7 days. Yeah. And we've been releasing them on 4 nights a week for this month during the crowdfund.
That's incredible. Wow, that's incredible. Well, there would be no Instrument Head Live if it wasn't for the original book, Instrument Head. You got a copy. There it is. There's another friend of mine from Cincinnati on the book cover right there, Mr. Bootsy Collins. Yeah, that's such an incredible photo. And I was there when you took it, which is cool.
It happened because of you.
Oh, so, well, yeah.
You introduced me to those people, and I've had a really good relationship with them ever since. So I'm very thankful for you and the doors that you opened for me. Oh, well,
the feeling goes both ways on that. So, and that came out, the first Instrument Head book came out, 2015, 16 in that neck of the woods?
2015, I did the crowdfunding campaign where we successfully raised the money on Indiegogo, and then the book came out in 2017. So for the last 4 years, I've been touring around the country, doing art and music events where we have the musicians performed. I know you did one in Columbus.
Right, with DJ Logic,
DJ Logic and Eric Deutsch, and that was really fun. So, the one thing that people have often said to me is that they wish they could see their faces. And over the last year of the pandemic, I've had a lot of time to think about it, and I decided that I wanted to unmask all of the instrument heads. And this
I'm all about superheroes, so I was all about that. I was like, I
you
am
love
Iron
it.
Man. Yeah.
You are so cool. And yeah, man, so it's been great. I put that book out. It was a good success, and it still is a good success, but I'm really excited about this next chapter, to be able to put out a book of my, serious portrait work, and to finish telling this story that we started, in 2015.
So it's you can think of it as a companion book to the original book, And by the way, it's called Instrument Head Revealed. That's correct, right?
That's right. Yes. So it'll be all the same people in the same order, except you can see their face. And the new book becomes a key to the original. And people always ask me, well, you have to go out and reshoot all these people. But what people don't understand is that I shot all of these portraits when we did these original sessions. The instrument head only takes 3 to 5 minutes, because it's kind of like torture. And,
Right.
you can probably attest to that. But the cool thing about it is, in entertainment photography, you're bringing in stylists and makeup artists, and you're kind of creating an illusion. For me, I believe that photography is about telling stories. So I would say to the musicians, like I said to you, what is it about you that makes you special? How are people going to know it's you? So people would show up with the relics from their life and their instruments and the clothing that they wear. So what would happen is they would show up with all their stuff, and I'd be able to take an honest portrait of them. And that's what this book is going to be, is these honest portraits that I shot in conjunction with the instrument head photographs.
Yeah, that's so incredible. And then we will have anybody watching right now, just go to the description link in the show, and we'll have a link straight to that, so you can get your own copy of that, which is part of the the funding process, is obviously getting the book too as well. So do you have I know it depends on a lot of things, part of it is the campaign you have running right now, but do you have like kind of a rough target street date for the next book to hit?
Yeah, well, my goal is to have them in people's hands by Christmas of this year.
Oh, perfect.
So the goal is to go to print at the end of in the mid-September.
Yeah.
And have it shipped from Italy by boat, 10 days into October, and then have them, by December in time to ship for Christmas.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So let's do a quick little, for people that might not know, or might have missed the first show, or might not know, your whole story. So I know you lived in New York City, Brooklyn for many years, but you're kind of from the South originally, right? Is that correct?
That's right. I'm from Birmingham, Alabama, but I went to college at Colorado State University. So I moved to Fort Collins, Colorado in 1996, where I started photographing musicians. I became the house photographer for the Aggie Theater there.
Yep.
Spent 7 years on the Front Range photographing many concerts all around Denver, Boulder, Fort Collins, Telluride, all over Colorado.
Yeah.
And eventually became a house photographer at Red Rocks for 4 years, and in 2003 is when I moved to New York City.
Wow. And then you were in New York City all the way up until when you moved to Nashville, correct?
That's right.
And then, and New York City is where you, I'm assuming where you did the majority of your growing as a photographer, networking, getting your name out there. That's kind of where that all kind of came together, I'm assuming, for you.
Right. So when I lived in Colorado, I was photographing concerts, I was shooting for Rolling Stone, but I was a live music photographer. When I moved to New York City, I met with editors at Vibe and Spin and Rolling Stone. And they all kind of said the same thing. They said, your live music stuff is as good as it gets, but if you want to be a portrait photographer, you need to do some studying. And, I've never really taken a formal photography class, but I've always had mentors. So I moved into this building in Brooklyn that was filled with photographers.
Stop right there for a second, and I don't interrupt you because this is fascinating to me, and probably will to our viewers too. So there, just like in the musician world, there's definitely a big difference. I mean, between playing live and doing stuff in the studio. Same thing goes with photography too, I'm assuming, right?
That's right. Well, if you're a photographer in the field as a photojournalist and doing like reportage photography, you have to hone your instincts to be able to capture what's happening.
Yeah.
Now, in the studio, you're creating what's happening, but if you don't have the instincts to be able to capture it, what you're creating, it doesn't work. So there's two different things. There's capturing in the field and creating in the studio, but both go hand in hand.
Right. In the studio, you're almost kind of more acting almost like a director in a sense too, right? Because you're controlling your environment where you're just shooting the environment in the live field. I'm assuming that's part of it, right?
That's right. And in the studio, you're actually trying to break down walls and ego and kind of
Right.
get to the person, you know. And
But you are so great. I mean, you do the most crazy unconventional things to make us musicians lighten up. You know, it's just weird stuff. I can't even think. I know with like, not for me, but I know with Boot, and you got in a photograph, you were looking for a bunch of rubber, Bootsy's rubber band. You got a ton of rubber bands and had them throw those rubber bands all up in the air, and that just kind of loosened up the room in a different kind of way. That kind of stuff.
right,
Yeah.
that's actually going to be the cover of the new book. Is that photo?
Oh, right. Oh, that's right. Because he didn't have anything in front of his face for that, right?
That's right. But that's it. So I believe that, you know, we all have the ability to be a kid again.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's kind of what it's about, is, you know, breaking down these walls of ego and image that people try to portray and try to get to the true person. That's what I try to do with my photography.
That's fantastic. So what do you think of, you know, last time we talked was right at the beginning of the pandemic, and, you know, no one knew what to expect or how long we were going to be or what the deal was going to be. We're obviously starting to see things starting to open up now. We're seeing festivals come together, some even club date type stuff happening. Where do you think we're at? And I mean, do you think it's just going to be, you know, in a matter of 6-8 months, everything's going to be just like 2019 all over again? Or do you think that there was some precedent set that's going to carry on over to where live music is, whether it be, you know, incorporated with streaming or some even like the pod thing with live, or any, you know, what do you think things are going to be with live music, say, you know, going into 2022, I guess?
I think things are starting to get back to the way they used to be. I think that these pods are kind of a cool thing because everyone becomes a VIP,
Right.
which is kind of awesome. I mean, it's hard to mingle, but, you know, Red Rocks is selling out shows now. The Peach Festival just happened. It looked like a huge crowd. It was packed.
Yeah.
As long as this, you know, new variant doesn't kick our ass and send us back into lockdown, I think we're going to be okay.
Yeah. It feels that way. I mean, you know, we played our first show in whatever 16 months over the weekend in Virginia, and it just felt like pretty normal, you know.
Time.
Yeah,
That's
and
right.
it felt great too, of course. Yeah, that goes without saying too. So, well, jumping back to your timeline a little bit, and then so what question I'm not even sure I know the answer to. I'm happy you're in Nashville. It's obviously the place to be. There's so many people that I've interviewed on the show, even in the last few weeks, that live there now and moved there freshly like you have. Why Nashville? What's the fascination with Nashville? What's the big deal with Nashville right now?
Well, I moved here because, like I said earlier, I grew up in Birmingham, Alabama, and my
Yep.
mother got sick and eventually passed away. So I wanted to be closer to my father.
Got it.
I needed to live in a music city. It was either New Orleans or Nashville.
Okay.
I've been spending 20 years in New Orleans and know a lot of the people down here. And I recently started coming to Nashville, where I became the house photographer for the Bluegrass Underground, which is a PBS special they film in the caves.
Right. Sure.
And I started working at Ascend Amphitheater as a house photographer. So I got a bunch of gigs here and started meeting a bunch of people. And it just looked like now was the time. It felt like when I moved to Brooklyn, when I was living in South Williamsburg, when there wasn't much going on. And now I'm in East Nashville. I've got a great studio. It's kind of in the heart of, you know, the artist area. And, you know, I just love it here. I love the community that's here. And I just think the business of music is happening in Nashville.
Yeah, it sure feels that way, and you know, it's obviously centrally located to everything too, as well, which makes things, you know, Atlanta, Florida within a few hours, and then obviously the other way with New York or whatever the case may be. So that's awesome. So tell us a little bit. I know this past week you just did and you know, we were talking about the Instrument Head Live concept you have there at your studio, and I think you just had one recently with like Victor Wooten and Future Man and some other folks too. Is that correct?
Yes. So, you know, Jeff Coffin is a really close friend of mine, and he wrote the foreword to the original Instrument Head book. And so when we decided we wanted to do this concert series, I called him. I said, this would be so great if we could get you and Future Man and Vic together to do a trio, you know, because they were in the Flegtones together, and Jeff's now in the Dave Matthews Band.
Right.
And, you know, Victor and Future Man are both in the Instrument Head book, and I called them and they agreed to do it, which is so nice of them. And you know, they called me and they said, we're bringing in Bob Lanzetti. And Bob Lanzetti is a guitarist for Snarky Puppy. He's a really amazing improviser. And, you know, I was talking with Bob, And I said, that's really great. You're going to get to play with Vic and Roy. And now Jeff Coffin has a trio with Victor Krauss on bass and Jordan Perlson, you know, who plays with Adrian Ballou and a bunch of people on drums. And so he thought that that was the group that he was playing in. And I said, no, man, I'm talking about Victor Wooten and Future Man, and you get to be Bela in the Flecktones. And he, you know, he was really excited to do that and get to play with these guys. And the music is absolutely mind-blowing. Please go back and watch the replay. And, you know, it was just great to be in my space at 11 o'clock on a Sunday morning, seeing this music happening.
Yeah, that's just so incredible. Wow. Well, make sure you say hello to Vic. Last time I had him on the show a few months ago. We were he's a superhero geek like I am, and they just released the one of the Justice League movies, and we did a little review together on my show about it. You know, so it was cool. He gave a really good review, which was really cool.
I love it. I've been watching all the Marvel shows.
Oh yeah, the Loki show is incredible. Yeah. That's a whole nother. That would take us another hour talking about that one.
That's the thing with this book, man. It's kind of like Marvel. It just keeps on going. You know, I
love it.
I created this brand, and it's become much greater than myself, and you know, and I'm able to support charities and things like that. So it's been really good.
And tell us a little bit about that. Doesn't part of like the crowdfunding or for the book sales, doesn't some of that go to charity too as well?
Yeah, so I'm giving $3 of every book to the New Orleans Musicians Clinic.
Wow.
And people are actually able to come on this campaign and buy my artwork as well. You know, like if you have a fan, like a FREEKBASS fan out there, that wants your instrument head or a revealed portrait, or, you know, any of the kind of artwork I've done with you over the years, they can get a print of one of your pieces to hang in their home. You know?
Right. That's great. Well, I told you I played a show. It was right before the pandemic. Maybe it seemed like 2 weeks before. It was probably like last, you know, I think, you know, that February right before it. Down in Florida, was it Uncle Crazy Mike's in Boca Raton?
Crazy Uncle Mike's, yeah.
Crazy Uncle Mike's, yeah. And they had your, like, it was wild. Your photographs were, big ones were like everywhere around the club, which was really cool. Yeah.
I know. I went down there and had it, you know, because I basically done my career kind of like a musician would. I've got a box truck. I loaded up with all my stuff.
Yeah.
Music venues to give me guarantees, and I set up art shows. And, you know, I basically am like you, but I have more stuff to move and less people to do it.
Sure.
You know? So it's been cool. I've kind of been developing this thing on the road for years, which is great.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing, Mike. Well, so you kind of said a little bit, like, you know, obviously Instrument Head is becoming almost like its own brand, as you say. What do you have anything besides the book? That's obviously the first and foremost right now, but you know, any other kind of plans in the works? I mean, I'm assuming Instrument Head Live is part of that, right? Like you continue to grow that, right?
I'm still going to obviously try to do concerts and, you know, these kind of musical immersive experiences where people can learn about who the musicians are. But what I'd really like to do, and my goal in the future, is to find other artists like me who have big bodies of work, but they don't know what to do with them. And I'm going to help to empower them to put their work out, teach them how to sell it, and kind of either crowdfund or have their fans kind of put into that so they can, you know, because if you can sell your art, it creates freedom, right?
Yeah, that's
the whole goal, right? So
that's it.
And I've learned how to find freedom within my work, and I want to help and empower people to do the same with theirs.
That's incredible. That's great. So you mentioned that the books get printed. Is there a reason why they're printed in Italy and then shipped over? Is there like a specific printer you really like the way that they do?
Well,
you know, obviously that's someone you work with that you like, you know, is there a reason why you chose them to do
when I was living in New York, I lived in this building, like I said, with all these artists and filmmakers and photographers. And, you know, one of the photographers who lived there is a guy named David Allen Harvey, who's a really famous photographer. And I met a guy from Italy who runs Burn Magazine, which is his photojournalist blog. It's the biggest photojournalist blog in the world. Diego Orlando from Italy was there, and he is a producer and produces books in Italy at a place called Grafica Antiga, which is one of the nicest printers in the world, where they print the Pirelli calendar. And when we printed this book, you know, there's 3 different kinds of paper. It's really beautifully bound.
Hold it up just a little bit, Mike. It's kind of a picture. There you go.
It's about as nice as it gets.
Yeah.
So for the sister book, I have to print the same quality.
Right.
I have to go to the same place. in the future when we print new books, we might not necessarily print them at this particular printer, but for this purpose, I have to have the exact same quality, to match.
Yeah.
So, because I'm going to be creating a box that people who own the first book can buy the new book and put the two books together as a set,
Oh, like almost like the kind that sits on your shelf, like one of those
That's right.
boxes. Wow. You should think about, it'd be a cool thing to do. This may be too, I don't know how cost effective this will be, but like you were mentioning earlier with, different fans for different things, actually like have specific, or at least have a different combinations for the holders, you know what I mean, of different musicians or whatever.
Oh, 100%. I mean, my goal is actually to create different limited edition box sets.
Yeah.
I was thinking about doing a Billy Strings one and a Derek
Right.
Trucks and
That's perfect. Yeah.
Mickey Hart maybe from the Grateful Dead. But, it's just, for me, I'm just so thankful to be able to share space with all of these musicians and to connect. And that's what photography is about for me. And, the cool thing about this project is I've shared space with all these people. And, many of these musicians, a lot of them have passed away already, a lot of the older guys.
Yeah. Bernie was in the book, wasn't he?
Bernie, Johnny Winter.
Right. Yeah.
Mike Stubblefield just passed away recently.
Yeah.
Idris Muhammad.
Yeah.
Quite a few people. And, when all the people in the music business and all the agents and the managers and all the people like that are gone, what's going to be left? The music and art.
You're right.
Your music, my art,
Yeah,
the stuff that we left behind. So, hopefully what we're doing is historically important and people are, will gravitate to that.
Yeah, that's a great thought. Well, man, that's like a perfect way to end it too. And like on your legacy, the legacy of this book and you and what you're doing and connecting these threads for everybody. I'm just so happy, just to see you've just got such an amazing vision and you've had it you've been laser focused, you're almost like the Steve Jobs of the photography world, dude, like on this mission. Since that vision came to you for Instrument Head, 10 years ago or so, you've been like that, and it's great and it keeps growing. And I'm excited to see where it heads to next, as I'm sure our viewers are. Again, if you're like really digging this, make sure you just the description, just click, scroll down and you'll see the description. You can get your own limited edition book of this too. Spread the word about that. Spread the word about Michael Weintrob and his book Instrument Head and Instrument Head Revealed, which he said it'll be in time for the holidays this year, which is incredible. And that's it, dude. I can't wait to see you soon. Now we can actually, we're like, we can see each other in person now. I guess we're allowed to now, huh?
I know, man. Why don't you come down to Nashville and let's just do a show in my joint. And
I'm going to give you a holler after we get off air here, and I got some stuff I want to throw at you. So we'll
I would love to do it, and thank you for your support. And like you said, everyone can go to instrumenthead.com to learn more. And we're running this campaign until July 22nd. And
okay, that's coming up. So make sure you jump on it. Yeah.
Very thankful for anyone who wants to check it out.
Great. All right. Well, Michael, we'll continue success. And like I said, I'll hopefully see you soon down in Nashville. And can't wait to get this book in my hands for the holidays. All right, brother. We'll see you soon.
Brother.
See you, man.